Again, this is going to be our main focus. And so I'm always going to try and come back to this, supporting the immune system. We want to focus on the immune system today in the midst of our pandemic. And it is cold and flu season as well. We want to really ensure that everybody is got that immune system bulked up. We want it doing the best that it can to keep us happy, healthy, and moving on with our lives. So that's what this is all about. And as we are talking about that, just a basic definition. This is one I just pulled from the internet, just a basic definition of the immune system. But I want to kind of key into the fact that it includes a lot, right? The immune system is not just one thing. It's a lot of things. The white blood cells, different organs, and then the tissues of the lymphatic system. So the immune system and the lymphatic system often go interchangeably, but the lymphatic system is part of the immune system, as well as, various other organs like our intestines, our stomach to an extent, our skin, mucous membranes. There's a lot to our immune system. And as we're talking, again, that holistic picture, the immune system focuses on a lot of different avenues, and a lot of different things play into how well the immune system functions. And so we're keying in on physical activity and nutrition today, but just know and understand that there's a lot that goes into that. And I'll explain a little bit more with that as we move along. But again, the focus, movement, and fuel. And then understanding that immune system is just a system within a system. And when we have a system within a system, it's all about balance. That's what it's all about. And so I wanted to start here, kind of back up even more so from the immune system, and just real basic with health, because I feel like I would feel bad if I denied this portion of it. And so health is real simple. This is my favorite definition of health. It is an individual and collective attainment of balance, which in and of itself isn't all that special, other than you can kind of understand all the words. But when we pair it with what's below these 6 foundational principles of health, or what they're termed, then we have a really holistic picture of what health can actually be and how you can go about attaining health. And so, like I say, these are the basic foundational building blocks of health, and they all need to be addressed in order for us, the human body, our system, to attain health. And like I said, they're real simple, again, intuitive stuff here: thinking, breathing, drinking, eating, sleeping, and moving. So these are the foundational principles of health, and you can't have health if you don't have balance within each of those principles, and then collectively all of those principles as a whole. Everything is in unison. It's a symbiotic relationship, not just with our environment, but within our own environment, right? We got to find that balance, and that's what it's important. And today we're focusing on balance within our eating and our moving, and we'll touch a little bit on drinking, just a little bit, but that's the main focus of today. And so I just wanted to kind of set the tone. This is health. This is what we're trying to achieve: balance within all of these systems as an individual and then collectively. And like I say, the immune system is just one system. It's a system within a system, within lots of systems, multi-system, really. And so it's important. It's a very important system. But if we neglect a lot of this basic stuff, and then it doesn't really matter what we're going to do, we're not going to be able to find and promote health. And so a little bit more on the lymphatic system, because it is such a big component of the immune system. Lymphatic system is basically our detoxification system. This is how we clean the body out, dealing with all those toxins and wastes and every other unwanted material that we don't need. And the important thing to note with the lymphatic system, as huge as it is in regards to the immune system, the lymphatic system is different than our respiratory and our circulatory system in that we don't have a pump that specifically works for it. We don't have the heart to generate all the movement of that fluid within the lymphatic system like the circulatory system does. And so the only way the lymphatic system actually pumps or moves is through muscular contraction, which is super unique and super special, and which is why there's so much advertising and promotion on physical activity movement, because that movement helps us stay healthy, specifically right here with that lymphatic system and our immune system together collectively. And so this is just a little picture of it, but you can see it's the lymphatic system stretches throughout all across the body. And so when we have movement all across the body, we get to pump that fluid. We get to pump that lymphatic system. And if we don't have movement, if we're static or we're stationary, then we're just not going to be able to pump and keep our body healthy. So that's why physical activity is so important when we're talking about the immune system, because that movement is actually the driving force of the lymphatic system and the immune system. So movement, super, super important. And when we're talking about movement, I break movement down in two ways, or two types, two varieties. Again, I'm all about balance, that holistic approach. We got to find balance. And when we're talking about physical activity, there's a balance there. And often the focus is just on working out. We focus on pushing our bodies hard, sweating, high intensity movements, and things of that. When we're talking about exercise, that's usually the focus, and that's what makes a lot of money. So I can understand that. But there's another side to the equation to balance it out. And again, if we don't have balance, you don't really have health. And if you don't have health, you're not going to find happiness for sure. And so the other side to that coin is a work in. And this is just a neat way to look at it, workout versus work in. And they're basically complementary opposites. So again, that balance component. So working in, it generates energy rather than depletes energy within the body. It requires just a normal breathing pattern. So if you're working in, you're just breathing normally. You're not going to have a heightened sense of breath. You're also not going to have a heightened sense of and your cardiac response. You're not going to have a heightened sense of your blood pressure or anything like that. Working in aids digestion rather than stopping digestion. And most importantly, I think it doesn't require much thought. Working in is doing some sort of activity that is kind of monotonous in nature. It's just kind of going through the motions. And we tend to think that's bad in a lot of our cultural ideals, is we want to stay focused, stay present, stay with it and everything like that. Well, working in is kind of the opposite, and we can kind of let go and kind of get a glazed look over our eyes as we go through the motions. And I'll give you an example here. Maybe we can do one together actually also, but quite differently, like I said, than a regular working out. And it's important to distinguish the two, because especially when we're talking about exercise prescription, if you have a client and you don't do any sort of assessment to gauge how their stress is, then you can often overexert them and push them past the state of where they're ready to go. And a lot of things can happen because of that, but injury is probably the most common. And I think that's probably a good starting point to focus on, because we're talking about stress together. We're really focusing on stress in the body and how stress is going to affect that immune system response. And so when we're talking about physical activity and movement stress, there's a lot to it. And like I say, it's holistic and collective in nature. And so to give you like a picture of stress on the body and just our immune system response, or the physical activity portion, it's kind of like a spider web. You cannot pull any strand of that web without it affecting all the other branches or all the other strands in that web. And that's like a little simple analogy to think of stress. If you're stressed and you focus on that physical activity portion, just know that it's going to affect every other portion as well. And if we look at it through the health perspective, or that basic health model, is going to affect our thinking. It's going to affect our breathing, our drinking, our hydration level, our eating, what we use to fuel our body, our sleep patterns, and just the way we move in general. And so one thing always affects the others, and that's how it is within the body. Our organs and tissues hold hand, neurologically speaking. They're all connected. Very important to get across. And so with assessing if people are ready for physical activity or what kind of physical activity they're ready, these are 5 simple questions that I like to ask. And they gauge really well whether someone needs a workout versus a work in. So like if someone is tired just thinking about exercise, or they don't feel like they have the energy to do just their average everyday tasks, or if they're tight, sore, sick, injured, if they hit the snooze button every day or often or multiple times a day, or if they say they don't have time, these are key signs that they are not ready for a workout. These people need a work in, not a workout. And again, we're talking ultimately about the immune system here. And so I'm not talking about health in general. Yes, generally speaking, everybody needs a workout. It's great for your health, and fit people tend to be healthier in the long run. But when we're talking about general population, most people are not fit. Most people are not ready for a harder workout or an intense workout, to put it like that. And so it's more about meeting people where they're at and being intelligent with that prescription that we recommend for people. Because telling people, yeah, you need 150 minutes of moderate exercise a day, what does that mean? And that could mean, for a lot of people, dangerous amounts of exercise, especially the way we do it. We can get into exercise prescription a lot more, but we're not going to today, just because that's not our main focus. We're focused on health, stress reduction, and the immune system. And so our main focus is going to be on that work in exercise, because although that workout is highly beneficial, it's, very catabolic in nature. It breaks the body down so that we can build the body up. But a lot of times our bodies are already broken down. When we're talking about stress, everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, everybody is dealing in a chronic state of stress. It's no longer the time of running from saber-toothed tiger, and then when we get away, we can relax and we're no longer stressed. In our modern world, we're constantly stressed. We're constantly bombarded by information and requirements and things of that nature. A lot of things pulling us in a lot of different directions, and this just produces a chronic stress state. And if we don't know how to adapt or address that chronic stress state, it's going to be very dangerous for us. And if we're the ones leading it, it's going to be dangerous for the people participating in it. And so knowing the difference between a workout, a work in, and when someone needs either, vastly, vastly important these days. So here's a couple real simple examples of a work in exercise. These are things like slow walking, stretching, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, the low intense varieties, zone exercises, which zone exercises kind of are in line with the chakra system, different energy systems throughout the body. These zones specify on those specific systems or those specific areas. And then anything that you can consider a movement meditation. So I think of things like doing the dishes, folding laundry, doing household chores, things like that, mowing the lawn. And all this depends on our fitness level, generally speaking, because like I say, if we're raising that breathing rate or our heart rate, then we're probably not in a work-in state, we're in a workout state. So it's all dependent and different. We're all unique. And so it's about finding what's for us. But when it comes to physical activity, this is kind of the basics of it. What do we need? We need a work in, or do we need a workout? And so that's our physical activity portion. Like I say, not super in depth, not crazy in depth or anything like that, but a simple breakdown and understanding of kind of the basics and how we can break it up into one or two. And so I'm going to stop right now and see if anyone has any questions about the physical activity component and on our immune system and stress response. If nobody has a question, maybe I'll ask a question. What is your favorite workout or work in to help whenever you are stressed, whenever you're feeling stressed? How do you like to move your body to help de-stress? Maybe is another way to put it. Oh, sweet. Putting them in there for the chat. Thank you. Audrey likes to go for a run. Shannon likes to walk the dog. Nathana, so happy to see you on here. Light yoga, running, walking. Galena, love to go to the park with her granddaughters. Kayla, video workouts. Bar, dance. Oh, excellent. Good stuff. Yeah, those are all great work-in exercises. And just to note, like work-in can easily be shifted to a workout. The one key distinction that I like, really like you to get away is just that the breathing pattern. Your breathing really will dictate whether it's a work-in or a workout, because our breathing is the main source of energy for our body, not oxygen. It's not our fuel. It's not the food that we eat. Breathing oxygen is the main source of ATP energy for our body. And so being more aware of our breathing pattern is going to help us understand a lot more our energy output. When we breathe more, or if we're breathing shallowly or poorly, it's going to, that is a key feedback mechanism to letting us know that we are in a stress state. So whether our breath is short or whether our breath is long or more rapid, that's constant feedback from our body letting us know that, hey, we're a little stressed right now. We need to do something to take care of this. And so when we're just breathing calmly, normally, this is a workout activity. And I don't have the time on here. If we have time, you know what? We're about halfway through. We've got about 18 minutes through. Let's take a moment and can you guys see me? I don't know if you can see my picture. Maybe I'll stop sharing. Just for a moment. And we'll do a real quick work-in exercise together. Real simple stuff here. You can do it if you want to. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. I'm standing, you can be seated. It doesn't matter how you do this stuff, but it's real simple. Again, it's focused with the breath. And because of that lymphatic system, we want to move the body with it. And so I like Tai Chi type stuff or Qigong type stuff, just gentle movements. And so here's a real simple one. You can get in like a staggered stance. And this is a Tai Chi exercise. And what we're going to do with one arm is pretend that we're holding a bow. In our other arm, we'll draw the string back, inhaling as we do so. And then exhale, we're going to send that arrow forward. So real slow movement paired with your breath. We'll just do 3 breaths here. And then we'll switch sides. Okay, switch sides, hold the bow with your other hand. Real simple stuff here. Bend the knees if you are standing, just gently. If you want, you could send your arrow with intention to whomever or whatever you're thinking about. I'm going to send this last arrow for all of you right here. This is my love arrow and my appreciation arrow. So real simple. That's a simple Tai Chi exercise, the Archer, I believe it's called. But we're moving in unison with our breath. That breath and movement are paired together. And whenever you do that, that's a great way to make a work-in exercise. Again, this type of movement, this type of exercise cultivates more energy than the body uses. And so you end up, when you're done with a practice like this, it's encouraged that you stop and you just take a moment, close your eyes and tune into the body. And what you notice is, the way I notice it, is I just have a tingling sensation. And it's not everywhere in the body. It's kind of wherever my body needs a little bit more energy or attention, but a little tingling sensation. And that's a natural sensation. It's supposed to be like that. And that's just your body sending energy out throughout the body. You can do it a lot of different ways. Another one is you can press the hands together and you just press as hard as you can or as hard as you want, and hold that for a few seconds and then release. Put your hands down and you'll notice a little tingling sensation. And all that is just blood and energy and nutrients flowing to those areas of the body. So a real simple way to do it, but a lot of easy ways to do that. So that there is a little work-in exercise tutorial for you. Real simple. Hopefully it felt all right for you. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and continue and focus on probably the more controversial topic is that of nutrition. It is the more controversial discussion. And so again, nutrition, this is the fuel portion of our health and our immune system. And just like everything, we are what we eat, right? We look right now basically how we ate about a year ago, kind of thing. And that food that we put into our body is actual fuel. And so the better fuel that we put into our body, the better function we usually get out of it. And this is an easy concept for us professionals, but a lot harder for laymen to kind of grasp. But it is absolutely essential to fuel our bodies right. And let's see. The ultimate goal with nutrition or our diet should always be to have people tune into the body, to have people learn to listen to what their body is saying, because our body provides feedback all the time. It always gives us feedback, whether we're doing something that it likes or whether we're doing something that it doesn't like. And it's my belief that if you have any sort of health or nutrition dietary tip that doesn't revolve around people tuning back into their body in some sort of mindful awareness or some technique of that sort, then it's probably a useless technique and it's not going to help people. And that's just my personal opinion, my belief. Like I say, I don't like counting calories and weighing food or even scales in general for that matter. I think they're counterintuitive because they take the person away from the self. They take them away from the relationship within their own body. And when we are more attuned to our body and more aware of how that body feels, we have a lot more opportunity to change that feeling. Awareness always precedes action. When we can become aware and in tune with that body, we have a lot better chance of making changes towards a life that we're more happy with. And so these are some basic feedback mechanisms that your body gives. You know, allergies, any kind of food allergies, food intolerances. These are kind of obvious signs. If you go and have a milkshake and then you get some tummy troubles afterwards, that's a pretty common sign that that milkshake wasn't the best thing for you. It didn't quite honor your body. Just how you look, how you feel. These are great things, if people ever keep a food diary, I always say that you need to tune back in about an hour after you eat or have anything with calories. Tune back into the body and notice how you feel, because your body provides feedback constantly. Your bathroom habits give you amazing signals of whether or not the food that you're putting into your body is doing you well or doing you not so well. Your energy levels, and that's throughout the day, how you're feeling throughout the day. Your performance as well. This can be professional, personal, uh, physical performance, however you want to, define performance. But it's constant feedback into how you are feeling and how that nutrition is doing, and whether you're on the right track. And so I break nutrition and the diet down into 3 categories. These are what I found to be the most important areas and where people get the most bang for their buck. And I have them in a special order because this is order of importance. And it's for this way for a couple reasons. The first reason is because everybody knows that quality food is important, and that's number 3, and it is very important. Um, and I like it a lot, and it's an important topic, but it's not always accessible. Quality food is expensive. It is very expensive, and if that's the only thing that we have to preach to people is to just buy better food, it's probably not going to reach a lot of people. We have a lot of people that can't afford or get commodities or any different things like that, and they just don't have access to the good quality food. So if your talk is focused on that, you're going to miss out on a lot of people. And so the first 2 are more important, I feel. And there's various other tips that you can go along with all of these, but these are the 3 major ones. Again, we're laying that groundwork, the framework, the foundation of our eating health, because that's what we're really looking for. And in doing so, it's going to support our immune system, of course. And so the first one is, what ratio of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins works best for you and your body? And there's a lot of different ways to find this out. I'm all for the cheap, easy, free stuff. And so there's a lot of questionnaires out there that do this. There's also blood testing and genetic testing, which are pretty expensive. And I don't think it's necessary to be that detailed anyway. Because again, the number 1 rule with nutrition is to learn to listen to ourselves, learn to listen to our body. And a simple questionnaire can help with that just as easily as anything else. And so there's basically 3 categories that we kind of divide people when we're talking about that ratio of macronutrients that work best for them. The first one is an equator type, and these are people who live by, or their ancestors lived by, the equator. And so these people had access to fruits and vegetables year round, so a high supply of carbohydrates. The second group of people are a little bit higher up. And so these people had seasonal changes. There was a spring, fall, and summer and winter for these people. And so they didn't have access to fruits and vegetables year round. And so it was kind of a revolving type diet. Or another way to put it is like a mixed type, or right in the middle kind of thing. And then there's another group where either they're from, or again, their ancestry is from a more northern climate. And so these people have a very short growing season for fruits and vegetables, and they would provide most of their nutrients a lot more from animal products. So higher fat and protein ratio with this group. And what's important to note is that regardless of the group, and those are just the 3 basics, regardless of the group, they were all immensely healthy groups. They're all healthy. None of that is wrong. No ratio is wrong. I think that's important distinction to make, because there's a lot of diet dogmas out there where they push you to do this one thing or this one thing. Back in the 80s and 90s, it was don't eat fat. Fat is terrible for you. And now that's a little bit less believed and a little better understood now. But Same thing with like the Mediterranean diet, which is a popular diet nowadays. That's not necessarily the best diet for everybody. It's a great diet, but not necessarily for everybody. And so again, it's understanding your own individual needs and preferences. And just because of your parents doesn't mean, if your parents eat a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean you will need to eat that way. Our genetics are very, very unique and very evolving, and the environment we grow up in has a big play into to how we respond to those foods and nutrients. And so again, learning to listen to ourselves and our body and testing things out for ourselves. I always say research is really great. I love data research. It's very interesting. But the best research that we could ever do is right here within our own body. We have to be the scientist. We have to be the researcher, and we have to do our own study. And the study is one of self-exploration. So that's vastly important. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. The very number one thing that anyone can do to improve their nutritional quality is just to find a roundabout ratio. It doesn't have to be exact numbers, just a guesstimation of what macronutrients best serve your body best. That's number one, first and foremost. Next is what the optimal timing of your eating is, when you ingest that food. And this also includes drinks. So there's a lot of calorie-rich drinks out there. And so it's very important. Anytime you put calories in your body understands and thinks of that as fuel. It's eating at that point in time. So if you drink, just for an example, drink a soda every now and then, that's a meal for your body. That's a point of eating. And there's more and more research these days pointing to times that we don't eat are just as important as the times that we do eat. And we really got bogged into that 3 meals a day kind of thing. That's, you got to eat your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now the research is showing, we're understanding that that's not necessarily the case. And again, it tunes back into the number one most important thing when it comes to nutrition is learning what works best for you. Because if you're not hungry and lunchtime comes around, it's okay not to eat if you're not hungry. It's about knowing what works for you and your body. If you're not hungry, don't eat. You don't have to eat. You don't have to eat just because of some certain arbitrary time frame. And doing this, and again, listening to your body rather than the clock or any other expert out there, is going to far benefit you in the long term when it comes to your health, your immune system, your stress response. All of this is interrelated. And then, of course, the last thing is just that quality of food that best fuels you. Again, quality always trumps quantity. It's not even close. In my opinion, like I say, quality food does cost a lot. And whether it's food or supplementation, getting quality products, it does cost more. And there's tips and tricks to all of those things, to finding the best and getting those bargain prices and things like that. And those are all great. But again, it's just in knowing what works best for you right now at this particular time. And so it doesn't always have to be the best fare, and you don't have to beat yourself up because you don't have the best quality. You just do the best that you can at the time. And that's really the most important thing. But in that context, it's my belief also that quality always costs less. And when I say it costs less, I'm talking about the long-term picture. I'm sure you've heard of it termed like this before, but you can either spend money on quality food, or you can spend money on quality surgeries, quality pills, quality doctor bills, that sort of thing in the future. And that cost is also going to be, coupled with a lot of pain and discomfort as well. So if we spend a little bit more on our food right now, we're going to feel a lot better in the long run. And so that cost is really going to be switched out. And so it's a cost well worth the while. All right. So those are the three areas. And like I say, a lot of nutrition advice doesn't break it down like this. I feel like this is important. These are the basics. If we have a basic understanding of what ratio works best for our body, when we should eat, or at least being in tune to your body when you're actually hungry. One thing to note, actually, that I forgot is, actual hunger. A lot of people have food cravings and such. And these are just cravings. They're more of an addiction than anything else. And actual hunger is not felt in the gut or the stomach area. I think it's important to note actual hunger is felt more so in the throat or the jaw area. That's where actual hunger is felt. And so when people say, "Oh man, my tummy's rumbling," that's usually not unless a bowel movement is underway, that's usually not a sign that you're hungry. So anyway, moving on. And I just wanted to touch point on just some real basic essential nutrients for the immune system specifically. But again, our body is a collective unit. And so these are important for all parts of the body: vitamin A, D, C, and omega-3 fatty acids. Very important. And these are just some of the, products that you can get those out of: liver, fish, mushrooms, peppers, green leafy veggies, flax, and chia seeds. Those are just some things. And I apologize because my presentation isn't highly focused on indigenous foods, as we try to do every month. And so I just, like I say, I'm still new to this, and I'm still learning a lot of things. And so my talk is more focused on just kind of the general stuff. But these are very essential to the immune function. And then the last little area I wanted to touch on was that of drinking, or hydration. Water being the number one source. Very important that we stay hydrated and are hydrated well. Just 1% of dehydration can lead to negative cognitive effects. So it doesn't take much to just feel poor if we're not hydrated. And again, the immune system and the lymphatic system are highly attuned to how our body is regulating. And so if we're dehydrated, it's going to massively affect those systems, specifically that lymphatic system, that detoxification system. And so if we're really trying to detoxify the system, to detoxify the body to feel better, we need excess amounts of water, not to the point where we feel sick, but just we need to be fully hydrated and well hydrated. And that's very important. And then in talking of nutrition, again, anything with calories is considered eating. That's a food source for the body. It doesn't matter what it is. And tea and coffee are one of those unique things where, like water, they can be considered not a food source unless they have some sort of additive in it. So black coffee and regular tea don't have calories. And so these are the three things that are good and keep you in a fasted state. And so they don't affect your blood sugars at all, unless, again, they have something added to them. And another thing to note is even if you add a little bit of sugar, it's going to greatly affect the input. And sugar is a massive impactor for the immune system in general anyway. There's some research by Dr. John Briffa, who's a medical doctor in England, and he reported that just 1 teaspoon, which is like a sugar cube or a little sugar packet that you get at a restaurant, just 1 teaspoon of sugar can suppress the immune system for up to 6 hours. So just a little bit of sugar can affect the immune system greatly for a long amount of time. So when we're talking about our health, our immune system response, sugar is not something that we want incorporated into our diet, or at least we want to delay it as much as we can until we're starting to feel a little bit better. Because like I say, it affects us greatly. And again, sugar is a carbohydrate. And depending on which ratio we are, best, if we do better with fats, or if we're a mixed type, a little bit of everything, or if we're more of a carbohydrate type, that sugar is going to affect us all differently. That carbohydrate type can have a lot more sugar than, say, that polar type, the people that need a little bit more fat in their diet. And so very, very important. And sugar is an addicting substance as well. We can talk about sugar all day long, but again, sugar is a dangerous one. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. Let's see. Oh, another thing with tea and coffee is tea and coffee have a lot of polyphenols, which are kind of act like antioxidants. And so again, boosting the immune system response. Tea and coffee can be really, really beneficial with that. And again, it's also, they're not a food source. So very, very important. I think the last thing I have is just a question. First, I'll open up if anyone has any specific questions about what we just talked about. And even if you disagree with me, I'd love to hear. That's okay. Like I said, this is not for everybody, and everybody's a little bit different. And so if you have any questions about anything I presented so far, please feel free to let us know. And if you don't, I'm curious, what is maybe the biggest barrier that you or the people you work with for nutrition? What is the biggest barrier to eating nutritiously that you tend to experience?
There are a few questions in the chat box, Sean.
Cool. Let me see, where are we?
If you can see those, if not, I can read them out to you.
There we go, I think I got them. Connection between the sugar associated with holidays, Halloween through Easter, also the same time as cold and flu season. Are you asking, is there a connection between the sugar? There probably is a connection, Gina, and you would know more than me, actually. I think, Gina, you're a dietitian, right? Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it interesting how all of our major holidays are highly linked to any type of sugar product? And that's very, very interesting. And it's not a coincidence. It's a genius ploy by those companies. Oh, Audrey, that's a great question. What do I think of intermittent fasting? I think it's fantastic. A lot of research points out that intermittent fasting it's just the body's natural way to kind of heal itself and rest. And for those of you that just don't know, intermittent fasting is just not eating. And so, like, if I skipped breakfast, I would be technically intermittent fasting until the next time I ate, which may be lunch or a snack before lunch or something along those lines. So intermittent fasting is just prolonging my eating times. And it's proven in a lot of different cases that intermittent fasting is very, very good for you. Like I said, it's kind of like the body's way to just put a pause on the digestive system. And like I mentioned before, the digestive system is part of the immune system. They're very closely linked. You probably heard of the gut-brain barrier and those type of things. Our body is highly attuned to our digestive tract and what it is getting out of the environment or whatever we're putting into it, highly attuned to it, and it affects our whole body in a lot of different ways, more so than I can clarify. But when it comes to intermittent fasting, it's just like basically putting a break or allowing your digestive system to rest. And rest, as everybody knows, we're not talking about sleep here specifically, but rest is like the cheapest medicine that you can afford. It doesn't cost anything to just back off and rest. When we sleep, it's not like we have to really try to sleep. We just put our head down and we rest. It's the same thing with our digestive system. As long as we're not eating or anything with calories specifically, then our digestive system is basically resting. And what they found is that when we do rest, when that digestive does have time to rest, it heals and the body feels so much better. The one thing there's probably a couple things with intermittent fasting This is not meant, it's not meant for children. Obviously, it's not meant for pregnant women or women that are wanting to become pregnant. It's probably not recommended for them. It's not recommended as a weight loss method, although it can boost in weight loss methods. It's not meant for that specifically. And what was the other one? There was another one for intermittent fasting. There's something else I'm missing that I'm not thinking of. But intermittent fasting is not a diet. Also, maybe I should put that. It's not a diet. It's just a tool, just like a lot of other things. It shouldn't be the go-to. Intermittent fasting is one of those cool techniques, so long as it's. Well, that's what I was going to say. It must be doctor approved, specifically if you have any sort of disease or if you're on any specific diets from your doctor or medication, because your intake of food and medication is very important. Your doctor monitors those. The same thing if you're a diabetic, very important. Of course, our blood sugar is massively important when it talks about intake of food, and intermittent fasting can very much dysregulate that. And so it's important to consult your doctor before doing anything like this anyway, or even anything that I've discussed anyway, because I'm not a dietitian. I'm no longer a nutritionist. I'm just a guy that loves this kind of stuff. But very, very, very important, very, very neat thing to discuss that. And I know a lot of doctors out there that are doing intermittent fasting as part of their diabetic protocol for their patients. But again, it's highly monitored by the doctor. These aren't people that just go out and do it, because when you have a diagnosed disease, it's very important to keep that under wraps and being closely monitored with it. So not for everybody, but for those that are well or relatively healthy, intermittent fasting can just be a nice tool to, again, help rest and heal the digestive system and your body. I hope I explained that well enough. Any other questions? Those are great questions. If nobody has any questions about the barriers to nutrition, or any ideas of what their biggest barriers are for either themselves or their participants, would it be helpful? We're curious here at the Great Plains. Would it be helpful to have a list of different tools to help people connect with their body? And again, this is my belief. It's my belief that the better you can connect with your body, the better you are off. And that's not just with nutrition, that's in life in general. But specifically with nutrition, I feel like any tool that we use that takes us away from that is taking us further away from the main purpose, what we really need, because there's so much distraction these days. We're not really, this discussion isn't talking about mindfulness or meditation, but there's so many things that take us away from the present moment. And when we can't be present with a meal, which is meant to fuel our body from Mother Earth, that can be a very dangerous thing, because when we're not in touch and present with that meal, that food source, or our body, when we're talking about physical activity, we can injure ourselves very easily. And one thing I didn't talk about, but when we're talking about health, if we're not getting balance, and you guys know this already, if we're not attaining balance, our body is going to respond in a couple different ways. There's 4 things that happen in unison when we are not paying attention and we're not finding that balance within our body. The first thing is we experience fatigue, and we experience fatigue often. Okay. The second thing, let's see, what is it? The second thing, we get ill. We get sick more often. Whether this is a seasonal thing, which really shouldn't be, or whatever, but we get tired and then we get sick more often. After we get sick more often, we usually get a disease of some sort. And after we get a disease, death is usually around the corner. So when we're not finding that balance, when we don't attain that balance, we get tired, we get sick, we get a disease, and then we usually die. And that's about the route it goes, but it doesn't have to go that way. This doesn't have to be a negative story. This is, I want this to be empowering. This just means that we have all the tools necessary right now just to reverse all of that. And that's what you're all here for anyway, to do. And that's why I commend you and I appreciate you and very much love all the work that you're doing right now. Thank you, Gina. You are great. Appreciate your comment. Let's see, I had one more slide, I think. There we go. And as always at Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board, we try and tie everything back into policy system, environmental, and community clinical linkage strategies and changes, because we want to make big picture changes within our communities. That's what we really want. And these are just a couple examples for physical activity and nutrition specifically. And these are just kind of off the top of our head. There's a ton of stuff out there that do this, but when we really want to make big changes within our community, these PSE and CCL changes are really what makes the difference. And so if you have any more that you'd love to share, I would love to hear them always. If you'd like to help working on anything that you have, we'd love to do it as well. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. I think that's all I have, unless you guys have more questions, and I'm happy to stay around for you always, of course. But that was the presentation. Oh, and before I forget, before you leave, we will send a survey link, or unless somebody included it in the chat, but we thank you, Shannon. We encourage you to take our survey. It's real quick. It doesn't take that long. And we get lots of feedback from it. And we just greatly appreciate that. So if you can take a few minutes, fill out that survey for us, that would really help us in our programming in the future and what we can do. And as always, you can always reach out to us here. I'm Sean Hollearn at Great Plains Tribal Chairman Health Board, GPGHW.org. Shannon Udi, Madonna Dolphus, we're all here for you with the Great Plains Good Health and Wellness Program. Thank you very much for your time. Yes, there will be a recording for this webinar. We will send it out along with, we'll send it out with the survey link and just a gratitude note for you participating. So yep, absolutely, we'll have that. And we record all of our webinars and we put them up on YouTube as well. So if you want to view past webinars, you're more than welcome to do that. And to give you guys a little bit of heads up for next month, we are having Brian, I forget his last name.
Ben Tinsvold.
Say that again?
Ben Tinsvold.
Yep, that's his last name. He's going to come on next month and discuss community health workers and what they are, how great they are, how they are like a kind of a leading force in a lot of our industries nowadays, and how you can set one up in your business, organization, community, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be a real fun one next month. And there you go. Shannon provided the YouTube link for all our past recordings and stuff like that. Thank you, guys. This was fun. I hope you had fun. If you have any questions, or even if you don't agree with me, I would love to hear it, because I'm always open to new things. This is just my knowledge right now, right here. And I'm always happy to learn more. So please provide me with more information or feedback, anything like that. Super beneficial. Thanks, guys. And if you don't want to stick around or don't have any more questions, You are free to have a wonderful rest of your day.